So the New Beginnings Core Needs approach really began with the New Beginnings Parent Resources. These resources emerged over the past 4 years as I attempted to integrate schema therapy and circle of security in a way that was simple for parents and in a way that could be used just in 1 or 2 sessions. And it also reflects the many conversations I've had with parents that have had very different attachment experiences and parents that had schemas and ways of coping that showed up in different ways. And so over time, it's become hundreds and hundreds of pages of client-facing materials with the intention that these materials are used by, initially it was by me, that it could support the practice that I had with my family so that we could have conversations and that they would have something to take away with them to build on what we've talked about, which can be especially important in the shorter term work that I was finding especially as I moved into the Medicare model and had a lot less sessions. And so it began with just the circle of security map and some cups. And since this time, it's really developed into so much more than that. And so you will see in some of my other videos in more detail what the cups of need is and what the map of well-being is. So I'm just going to talk to you right now about the sequence of the main New Beginnings resource for parents and some of the other resources that are available to use in practice. So the New Beginnings parent resource initially it introduces both the cups of need and the cups of well-being and how they impact and relate to well-being. And then the map of well-being supports parents to understand the needs, attachment needs, the need for safety and security, and for your caregivers to accept you and love you without condition, and for them to be able to take charge in a way that's fair and reasonable and kind. And also that there's these needs to be able to go out and explore and build a sense of self and come back in. And so it goes through what children need as they grow up, and also what this looks like for them as parents in the perinatal period, that they continue to have these same attachment needs. And then it goes into the cups of well-being. It explains what these 10 needs are, again, what children need and what parents in the perinatal period need, and what it can look like when these needs go unmet in childhood and when they go unmet in the perinatal period. It then moves into the internal alarm system. This can be particularly helpful for parents that are doing some longer term work or where themes of attachment have come in. So the internal alarm system builds on that concept from Circle of Security around, their concept of shark music, and it looks at how this can show up around that map of well-being or around specific core needs, and how it can mean that, starting in childhood, there is learned ways of coping to navigate how to stay in relationship. And then it moves on to go into that in more detail, looking at how needs can be hidden, how, as I said, that coping can become a way of learning to navigate, and that these maps form, and, these maps of how to be in relationship and how to navigate the world, and that these patterns can be passed down intergenerationally. It then moves into schemas and helping parents understand what schemas are and the types of schemas. So the schemas relate to the cups and they relate to the map, and it helps parents understand how these connect. And the New Beginnings resource is designed to be used really really flexibly. So you may give parents 1 or 2 pages. You may not share with them at all the map of wellbeing if you're working with them short term. You may just share with them the cups of need. Throughout the resource, there is Sophie's story. So Sophie is a composite case, and it helps parents understand the links between early childhood experiences, unmet needs in the perinatal period, patterns of coping and of being in relationship, schemas, and how these interplay and impact mental health and well-being in the perinatal period. There are also many other composite cases that help parents understand specific schemas or specific patterns of being in relationship. The other element that is threaded throughout the resource is the notice and respond. So, noticing and responding is about helping parents begin to understand what core needs are, how they show up in life, and how we could notice that we may be needing something, and how we may notice what our children need, and that how we can notice that an internal alarm is activated or a schema, or how we're moving into a coping pattern that actually isn't what supports our own needs or our child's needs. So altogether, the New Beginnings resources offer a way of sharing different information with parents to support the integrated core needs approach. So these resources are available for clinicians trained in the core needs approach, and it will help with integrating that approach as well as being able to use this approach alongside other therapy approaches or across different practice contexts. There are also resources available to the public, and these include therapy resources, worksheets, and parts of the New Beginnings resources that are helpful for all parents to understand, even when they don't have a clinician using the core needs approach. So if you're interested in knowing more, you'll see that there's a QR code and a website, and that will help you be able to find access to the resources or to training if you're wanting to be able to access the New Beginnings resource and haven't completed the core needs training yet.